thanks for tuning in to another episode of TA Tech Unboxed. Each episode, we're chatting with the people behind the products that TA and HR teams use every day. And if you're not already on YouTube, head over there for an unboxing of the core features. There'll be a link in the description. I'm Chris Haslam, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Darren Bush. Hello, Mr. Darren Bush, how are you?
Hi, Chris. Yeah, good. Very good, thanks. How are you?
Very good, thank you. We've both been on holidays, looking tanned.
Have you? How was yours?
Mine was good, thank you. Relaxing, although I worked. So it wasn't relaxing.
I saw some posts as well on LinkedIn.
You know, addicted to the
Always
gram. Addicted to the gram.
Yeah.
How about you? How was yours?
It was good until we were boarding, and then we got caught up by the UK air traffic control mess.
And
so
now we've got a timestamp.
And
now we've got a timestamp for recording.
Oh yeah, there we have.
There we go. And who do we have on the show this week, Darren?
So today, Chris, we've got Nicola Sullivan from Meet and Engage. She's UK based, and before joining Meet and Engage, she's had 6 years working agency vendor side in branding and attraction and resourcing. Her last role was leading teams that delivered end-to-end resourcing and TA solutions. And she actually happened to be one of the first pilots of Meet and Engage. So welcome to the show, Nicola.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Hello.
Really interested in actually hearing about how you ended up working at Meet and Engage.
Yeah, no, you did me a real favour there and said that I had 6 years experience. It's nearer 26 years experience, actually. It's very kind of you, Darren. But and actually that experience was across what used to be called recruitment communications, attraction and comms, that sort of side of things, then moving into employer brand, then moving into a business. It's now part of a deco, actually, but it's Penna, which covered end-to-end resourcing. So actually it gave me a chance to work with recruitment, comms, attraction and brand, but at the same time, selection assessment experts, so OXIKEs, and then into managed recruitment, so RPO. And last but not least, actually, things like leadership development and also career transition. So I almost felt like it gave me the opportunity to span almost the end-to-end in terms of what someone might experience with an organisation.
Almost.
So it was really, really valuable.
Almost. That is all of it, isn't it? What are we missing?
Well, I'm guessing you could say alumni. I don't know. You guys must have something that I don't know about, but it was really comprehensive, and it gave me that real understanding, I guess, of all the levers you can pull, all the things that you have at your disposal in a business when it comes to your people as employees or candidates and then employees. You mentioned, actually, Darren, sorry, you triggered my memory in terms of the fact that I was one of Meet and Engage's first clients.
So was I right in that you piloted, was it one of the first they ever had?
Yeah, so Ali, co-founders, Ali and Graham, I mean, Ali and I have worked together a number of times now. When they launched the business, it's around 7 years ago, I was at Penna, and they... naturally you use your networks, don't you, to test your concept and sort of get feedback as such, and we implemented the Meet and Engage technology on some of our larger relationships. It's all about candidate experience, and what we were doing was managing for our clients very high volumes of candidates at speed, and we were always trying different things. Could you move faster? Could you be quicker? Could you be more diligent? Could you all the different things that we were trying. But actually what we then piloted was Meet and Engage to support with improved candidate experience. So actually what happens if you communicate, if you keep people warm and engaged throughout the process a little bit more effectively. And so, yes, we ended up trialling it and then rolling out the technology across a number of relationships. And then when Graham and Ali decided to expand the team from a solutions, sales, business development perspective, it was, they asked me, did I know anyone? Which I always wonder whether they want you to say, well, yes, actually, I'm interested or not. They just hope you give them some names.
Of course, that's it. You got recruited at.
Right, is that what it is, Chris? I'm glad you say that, because now I reflect on it, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was, exactly. But yeah, it was really interesting because it's when you can genuinely say, I've used it, it works, you can actually have conversations with prospects with a real sense of integrity and a bit of actually, I've been there, I've done it.
Did you use it as a candidate? or did you use it as a?
No, we used it as a business to help manage the relationships with our clients' candidates. So, to give you an example, if you've applied for a role with one of our clients, then as well as being processed by an ATS, which is exactly what they're designed to do, is to push you from one stage to another. You then include our technology to then introduce things like virtual live chats with recruiters to get people's questions answered via a chatbot, so that whatever time of day it is, whether there's a high volume or low volume of questions, you can get them answered. And then we can start serving information as well to keep that candidate warm and engaged during the journey. So
A manned chatbot. It's manned, there's a person behind it, not AI or.
Well, it's a pre-configured chatbot. So yes, we don't use AI. We do use NLP just to speed up where someone can get to more quickly. And really that's just improved efficiency for the candidate. We don't use AI at the moment. Actually, we're really conscious of what we're allowed to do with our clients' data. And so there is a question mark there around us being able to do that in the comfort zone of many of our clients, many of whom actually are government, financial services, professional services. They're pretty pretty techy about
I was going to say, one of the toughest games to do anything in the world of TA or HR or rec tech, and it's one of the toughest worlds, right? Particularly when you're starting to get into government, because you're exposed to lots of regulation. So that must be super. That must have been super tough. We'll get to that stuff when we go through demo. So I'm sure me and Darren have got some questions there.
I have a question on Ali and Graham's background, how they set it up, and what were they doing before Meet Engage?
Yeah, good question. So Ali's background is not dissimilar to mine. So actually from the world of retcoms, EVP, that sort of side of things. And worked in-house, worked for RPO. And Graham is through and through tech, dev, but also worked in consultancy for one of the big four firms as well, actually. So a really good combination of being able to identify the issues that we have in the world of candidate experience and recruitment, but at the same time with that tech, in-depth tech knowledge. So yeah, it's been really interesting. It's a really winning combination in that respect.
Is there a product story in there? The guys that use,
Yes, I mean the starting. So I guess the product story, the starting point is that as I described, that belief that there is a gap. There's always been a gap, there still is, but hopefully we're starting to help close it. But that gap around experience when it comes to the recruitment process, it is a process rather than experience, and it tends to feel very much. Well, I mean, some organisations don't even notify someone that they've received their application. So it can be a very low benchmark all the way through to companies trying their best, but simply having too many people to communicate with and too lean a team to be able to do the sort of comms that you would consider to be high touch. So there's the gap that we started to fill. But actually what Graham and Ali started with was live chat, so virtual events. So essentially bringing candidates together in moderated, secure chat environments where clients could present or have a forum with candidates. Candidates can post their questions and clients are able to answer those questions. It could be anything from what do I wear to my assessment centre to actually, I have a disability, what support can I get? All the questions that are frequently asked. You've also got that piece during the virtual events as well. While we sort of started at the attraction stage, it was probably predominantly where it was used. Increasingly, and very much so now, those events take place throughout the hiring journey. So actually, congratulations, Chris, you're through to your video interview. We're running a session Friday, 9 till 10. I know you were always going to get through to video interview, weren't you? But, congratulations, through to video interview. We're running a session where you can ask your questions and we can help you prep for your video interview. So you can imagine all of those touch points and all of those stages we put our candidates through. We can then run events where they can ask their questions, you can give them practice sessions, etc. So anyway, that was the virtual events piece. So that's step one. Relatively quickly afterwards, we introduced the chatbot. So actually the sort of challenges or use cases for the chatbot, the one that remains most popular is the FAQs. So actually, if you think of all the questions that particularly our early careers or volume hiring teams get,
That's really interesting.
it can take that legwork. Just a quick point actually as well. I always mention that over 50% of the traffic through our chatbots is outside office hours, which to me suggests the candidate's getting what they need. You're not just taking the legwork off the
Well, it's a big
recruitment
challenge,
team.
that, isn't it? I've always said to our teams, like, I remember back in agency days, early slots, late slots, lunchtime slots, when I don't want to be doing work,
Right. Right.
when I'm traveling or something, that's when people want to speak, right?
Yep.
So yeah, it's super interesting that you're expanding the life cycle, or you're expanding the available hours to comms with talent. That's
It's an absolute no-brainer. I mean, I guess the clients who benefit most from that are, I mentioned the volume clients, but those who are hiring people who work shifts, that sort of side of things. Actually, if you think of logistics, you think of retail, you've got your early careers clients. And we did have some clients when we first introduced our technology who had inboxes that they were just never getting to. So it wasn't even that they were slow to get to them. They were writing off the fact that they had 20,000 messages in their inbox and just couldn't get round to doing them. So there's that piece with the automation and the chatbot. I would just add actually that the other neat little thing that the tech does is the chatbot and one-to-one chat. I didn't mention one-to-one as well as group chat. If you think of a recruiter help desk, one-to-one chat when your recruiters are available, chatbot when they're not, bit of interchange there. So you get that whole sense of actually just being a consumer rather than being a candidate. It's sort of consumer grade expectations and hopefully helping meet that. In terms of the chatbot, the other piece that's really helped solve for our clients, high volume screening. It's so obvious, but actually candidates can screen at any time of the day when it suits them. You're not trying to, we replaced clients using telephone interview methodology for high volume logistics. I mean, it's just really a sensible way forward. And then things like matching people to roles. So actually a lot of our graduate clients or even some of our high volume clients will have a number of roles, and people when they first go to a career site aren't entirely sure where they fit in. We can help guide using the chatbot. So that was chapter 2 of our product story. So chapter 2 was the automation piece around the chatbot. Then we moved into onboarding. And by the way, I should just say every part of the story, including what we've most recently done, sort of feels like a natural extension of the brand. So yes, of course, we've got a roadmap. Yes, of course, we push ourselves. Yeah. But more often than not, that's in collaboration with clients just saying, do you know what, you fixed X? If I could just use it to do Y, and actually you get that natural sense.
Listening to customers through their journey.
Exactly. So that's worked really quite nicely when we moved into the onboarding space, which was fantastic. You're helping us engage people up to a point, but we're getting declines at offer and we're getting reneges. And one of the key areas, or two of the key areas of the renege rates, were high volume, so people just don't turn up on day one. And that's simply a reflection of the market, isn't it? That actually there are not so many opportunities, but actually there's very little between the opportunities that you're choosing between, I think is probably the best way to put it.
It's like you need to engage between engagement, isn't it?
Right.
Like I invite you to something, and then I need to make sure I'm also engaging you in the gaps before the day or before the event to make sure you remember there's an event. Been stuck with that so many times.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, one of the brilliant examples, and we're just about to go live with year 3 of this actually, is Royal Mail posties delivering seasonal post. Actually,
I mean, they never turn up anyway.
Grace.
Stop it. I won't have you say bad things about my wonderful clients. But no, in all seriousness, reversing that dropout rate, you can imagine the pain of having a high volume of people not turning up on day one. So I've made that point. But if you then think about early careers, the renege rate in early careers in the past few years has just gone up and up and up. And you could have spent £3,000 or £4,000 getting someone from attraction to offer. 3 times that if you're in the legal sector, by the way. I think that's the ISE figures. So actually, people reneging and taking someone else's offer in the weeks running up to September, if you're in the UK, for example, absolutely critical point for businesses. And our engagement technology, virtual onboarding technology, will keep candidates warm during that process. That's a very long answer. Oh, I haven't finished the product story, but Darren, I'll stop for breath.
Why have we seen an increase in candidates obviously relating on the offer?
Do you know, it's a really good question. And I'm so if we look at the early careers space, I think that there's first of all a genuine behaviour that candidates have, Gen Z, I think most of us have it actually, where we're consumers right up until the last minute. So just because I've accepted an offer from you doesn't mean that I stop shopping and that I stop listening to other stuff, because I'm constantly on social media or in other sources getting messages that might what's the right word? Just derail
right up till end of probation, right? I mean, you're sort of not really in until you're really, really in, and you're both
right.
We pitch probation as a testing ground for both of us, isn't it? So it's the same again. So yeah, big challenge there.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, I'd be really interested actually, it's a really good question, because I haven't actually seen research which says these are categorically the reasons, but there are indicators that people are still shopping up until the point they arrive on day one.
Even after they sign the contract as well.
Right, absolutely.
Which is, at the time, the signed contract was it. It was a done deal.
I know, absolutely.
We used to be scared of it, I think, didn't we? We all used to be scared of signing something and then not. Or like candidates used to delay. Like for us, we used to have an SLA of like, if it's not signed in 24 hours, we need to go back to the pipeline and see what else is there, and tell the candidates like, hey, I can sense that you're not feeling this. We're gonna have to go back to the other team. We need to fill this role quickly. It's dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah. It is, and we've built in with that in mind, actually, we've built in a number of ways in which our technology can give clients a sense of who is a potential renege or who is showing a lack of engagement.
Powerful.
Like that, Chris.
Powerful, like that.
Yeah, well, that to me, I mean, I love seeing positive engagement, but for me, the powerful, as you said, the powerful thing is that actually, if we can highlight to a client, or they can see in the dashboard, actually, I can see that Darren hasn't engaged with us, with us for a week, or actually he hasn't. I know he's awful, isn't he, that Darren?
I don't know if he thinks of me, but yeah, that's fair enough.
But or we also ask questions like, "How are you feeling ahead of day one?" Now, actually, if someone on a scale of 1 to 10 puts, 1 or the less smiley face, we know that the recruiter should be reaching out and saying, "What can we do to make you feel better?" Yeah. So I think that's something that's really interesting. The renege rate and why it's happening is a good one, and I'm still puzzled by it slightly. What we try and do during onboarding, and we encourage our clients to do, is give as much value and bring as much value into that pre-boarding phase as they can, because it reduces the time to productivity. The work readiness is improved, and someone's building a relation. They're getting something back from you. So that investment in that relationship, it's just sort of human nature in some ways, isn't it?
Or almost, if you're doing those things earlier, like onboarding, and I think onboarding light, I felt super uncomfortable with asking people to do too much before they start, but allowing them to self-teach or read some stuff so that we can get into contract signed to end of probation. We can get as much in that period to make a good decision, right? We want to both parties want to make really good decisions. So anything you can do, I think, that provides information earlier for folks to start vetting themselves, not only keeps them engaged, not only probably increases the likelihood of success in the project, but it also is likelihood of them starting, but it's also likelihood of ramping faster, producing quicker, feeling comfortable and fitting in, and it's super interesting.
You make a really, really good point there about the belonging, the side of, the belonging side of it, actually, because we do know, and I mean, these stats are probably, in fact, they are more specific to an early careers audience, but we know that for many reasons over the past few years, exposure to the workplace, being familiar with whether it's hybrid or office working, Even basics like knowing what to wear on day one, or how to actually, what are the sort of socially acceptable ways of,
of behaviour. Behaviours are really important, aren't they?
Right.
Yeah. How should you?
Exactly.
How do we talk? Like
Right.
how do you find your way around the office? Who do you ask when you've got problems with this kind of stuff? That stuff it's lag, isn't it?
Really,
it's lag. It's
really does matter. And we've seen a number of bits of research that show that Gen Z have said really want support with collaboration and networking, really want help with work readiness, really want to, that they're asking for it, and actually it's that pre-boarding piece is a fabulous. Yeah, absolutely.
It's missing, isn't it? I think it's missing from our market. We don't do enough. I think from I remember the first day I started one company was a Friday, and it was dress down day. No one told me that.
Did you turn up in your suit?
Yeah, of course.
My first school day was like that as well. You know what I mean? It's just like it feels like before you step in, you should feel like some level of comfort, shouldn't you? Not comfort's maybe the wrong term, like readiness.
Ready. I think you're right, actually. So because all those words you're describing there actually just lead to us all. We all perform better when we feel confident and comfortable and welcome, don't we? It doesn't matter who we are or what our backgrounds are. Actually, it's setting someone up to have a good day, isn't it? That's
and that gives it a positive experience, and that's why you walk out thinking, this is a great place. I enjoy my first day.
Let me cover why Darren's not responding or not engaging with the platform that much. Is it also an indicator? Is it a good indicator? If you utilize, like, flip the data, maybe it's negative that Darren's not engaging, but also I think for me as a recruiter, it's also good for me to know, actually, I think we're not going to hit that, day one target that we think we're going to hit because of X. Like, that allows me to also affect change, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And we do have clients being very, very honest about the fact that it can be incredibly painful to have a hiring manager conversation to explain why, Darren isn't turning up on day one. Because it's both expensive, it's embarrassing, it's awkward, and actually, unless you're doing what you said earlier and going and preempting that in some way, you've got a bit of a back to square one situation, haven't you?
And the knock-on effects for the government can be huge. I'm assuming, I don't know much about that world, but I'm assuming the knock-on effects of, we're not talking about one postie not turning up, right? I'm assuming we're talking about 50s and 60s of them, not coming in on day one. And that can cause a huge backlog 3 months down the line when you've, if, like you said, September for Christmas. Like, I'm assuming that I'm being understaffed in those periods, undertrained staff. That's when mistakes start happening. So,
do you know, I actually, remiss of me, don't know what the renege rate used to be. I can tell you, for one of our graduate employers who takes 1,200, let me just get this together, so 1,200 graduates alone per year, they at one point, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, had a renege rate of just under 17%, which, if you think about the my maths, right?
Yeah, and, let's make it 10% because I'm stupid.
But,
so on 1,200, that's 120 people.
Spared by blushes as well. There, actually.
So that's 120 people. So 7%, what, like 100 people?
180 people.
People. Yeah. Right. Just throw a quick stat in there in terms of their most recent. So the first year of using our technology, and they did do other things as well, but we'd like to think we had some impact on this. They reduced their renege rate by around 30%. Now, it differed depending on the region. So APAC differed to US and UK, for example. But that's huge. We're talking about significant numbers. So to your point, Chris, yes, you're absolutely right. You're often not talking about 1 or 2 reneges. You're talking about hundreds.
It's similar to when you book an airline. In some ways, they overbook now. I don't know if that process actually happens now with graduate hiring. When you book an airline, they'll always put 2 or 3 extra seats on, right? Because they know there's actually, statistically speaking, 10% people don't actually turn up for a flight on average.
Who's not turning up for their holiday? I was the first one there. I was speedy boarding. I was at the front of speedy. I asked if there's a layer above speedy boarding. I wanted to make sure
pushing the elderly people out of the way to get on there.
I had fake babies I was taking on the flight just to get the front.
No, Darren, actually, I don't know the answer to your question.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's the same, because if you're having, say, 70%, I know there's other companies and there's this problem in the market. Are we over hiring to get around that?
I mean, I guess if you've got the data and you know that last year you were X underneath, then
Then you would do, wouldn't you?
why wouldn't you over
Yeah, you would.
subscribe? Because you know you'll have dropout.
Yeah.
And I guess if you don't have tools like Meet Engage that are allow you to get some sort of feel of how we're going to get on. I'm sure there's not just you guys in the funnel, and there's other triggers and other touch points that we need to track over time.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they are, Darren. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need to get a recruiter from the Royal Mail on it. That one.
Yeah.
I need to stop picking the Royal Mail.
That was our virtual
chapter
onboarding
3.
piece. And by the way, it's also the other thing that we really do enjoy doing is if that onboarding platform is all about serving, and I'll be showing this to you a little bit later, but it'd be serving content to candidates, pre-configured content to candidates over a customized period of time. So it might be weeks, it could be months, to keep them warm, engaged, etc. You can also embed things like the virtual events and the live chat with the chat bot. So actually, clients can benefit from having something that's serving content plus answering questions, etc., etc. But the next chapter, we then started looking at, and this is where it happened a bit naturally, rather than this is the roadmap. We saw that clients were saying, well, this is great because you're keeping our candidates warm now post-offer, but we also have attrition during the hiring journey. We've got a multi-stage hiring journey. It's over a period of months, it's over a period of weeks, whatever that might be. And actually, we want to find ways in which we can engage candidates during that. So we don't see a disproportionate dropout of candidates at video interview. We don't see a disproportionate. So we kind of went, if onboarding is there, we then took a step back. And we started what we call nurturing candidates with the same technology when they applied. So, and actually clients will do this at different stages. Some clients will say, well, our real pain point is our assessment centre. We might start, and congratulations, Darren, you're through to virtual assessment centre. I'll pick you this time. From now on, between now and your virtual assessment, we'll be serving you content or sharing insights with you that will help you be ready for the day. And that could be anything from demystifying the organisation. It could be some practice sessions. It could be inviting you to an event so you can chat to a recruiter. But essentially, we then nurture candidates during that journey to keep them warm, engaged. And importantly, and this is the bit that I get, I guess, most of a kick out of really, is we enable and empower people as well. So if you think that if the three of us were all going through the same multi-stage hiring journey, but I had never experienced a video interview, competency-based questions, I'd never actually, by nurturing me, you can level up and you can really help.
Just think
people.
about that. I've never seen there before. I've never thought about it before. It's like, what if you've never been?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's really
so easy to forget that layer, isn't it, of those that have never video interviewed. I mean, that even if you're an experienced working individual, you might have been in a role for 20 years, 15 years, 10 years pre-video interviewing technology.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So that's all about the that's the bit I find really powerful, not least because actually when we see the feedback from candidates, you can see the difference that can make. So I was in a chat for one of our public sector clients, and actually this was during the pandemic, but we see similar sort of themes coming up, and this a busy chat with recruiters, and they mentioned that actually, I've got my toddler at home, my nurseries are closed, etc., and I'm really worried about doing the virtual assessment. And the recruiter simply put a little note back, just saying, look, we've all got things on our plate at the moment. Just be yourself. Just enjoy the assessment centre. We're not, don't worry about that aspect of it. And you could almost, and there's a little emoji exchange between the recruiter and the candidate, and you suddenly just saw this woman's dial, her confidence dial going from, I really don't think I can do this because my 3-year-old's going to go absolutely mad, to, okay, I'm just going to be myself. And that for me it's just one example of really powerful boosting people's confidence.
So surprising the amount of times, just I assume all of us have been exposed to that type of question. I know personally from growing my own business that was a very common one where people get super uncomfortable and flustered when a kid comes into a room. And actually, I'm all for saying hello.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, it's like making fostering an environment that they feel comfortable and confident to be their most authentic self is the best way for you to get a real view of that person's,
Yeah.
life and ability to do work, right?
Yeah, I
So
agree with you. And actually, I was
awesome.
just, I was smiling wryly there because my son just wandered into the kitchen, put his ready meal on, just wearing his pants. So
Nice. I mean, we're lucky.
Yeah, for those
We're
who are
lucky that
listening,
that wasn't
you
on
didn't see it.
camera.
he is
Yeah,
17. Don't worry, I did check the angle that he
Okay.
wasn't going to be included. But I just, So yeah, you're absolutely right. But it's that piece. There's another thing that we did some work with. Do you know? You must know Theo Smith, so neurodiversity expert. If you don't, he's absolutely superb, and he did some consultancy with
Googling
us.
right now.
Yeah, he's proper brilliant, and he did some
Oh yeah,
consultancy with us.
recognise his face.
Yeah, you'll definitely recognise him. About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, he did a bit of work with us to basically help us understand how our technology could benefit those who are neurodiverse during the process. Because essentially, if you look at any multi-stage hiring journey, it's a set of barriers to people who have dyslexia, dyspraxia. I mean, I'm not even going to try and name because I think it's the spectrum essentially. Video interview, making eye contact, etc., etc. And he helped us understand that actually, when you're inviting someone to a virtual event, for example, or a video interview, make it really clear what to expect. Let them know they can pre-prepare some answers so they can cut and paste because their processing speed might be different. Actually, dyslexia might mean that they're particularly sensitive about obviously spelling and checking, etc. It was just a real eye opener, and we realised that actually there are lots of things about the hiring journey that make us uncomfortable. But if you've also got a challenge in another way, whether that's you haven't experienced that process or that particular part of the process before, or there is a reason why those processes are tricky for you. So we've kind of really started to think about how, for instance, in the onboarding journey or in the nurture journey, clients offering how do you best consume information? Is it infographic? Is it video? Is it audio? And giving someone the choice
I really like that.
how they consume that
How they
information.
consume.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's really obvious,
also
isn't it?
it's also a responsibility now, isn't it, of us to make sure that we are able to communicate. Right? The talent pool is so small.
Right.
And we're trying to find people that have got really difficult into really difficult roles right across the world. Even no matter what you do, there is always something that we're looking for.
Yeah.
That you have a responsibility to open your funnel a little bit and say, okay, cool. How do you? I was coaching a client of ours the other day on. We were building candidate personas, and I always like to build one of, like lookalike audiences that are like, how do we make this door-to-door sales role, just as an example, door-to-door sales role? How do we make this more accessible to those folks that, I don't know, have physical disabilities or when you're going door to door, the ability to be able to read signs and move and stuff like that is super important. How do we make this easier for them? What are we doing to facilitate the opening of the funnel to make our business more, not just, I think, diverse, neurodiverse as well, right? Because we can't see all of our diversities. That it's really important that we're doing this. That's even more awesome. I do know Theo, by the way. I love his content. I'm a big LinkedIn fan.
I just literally, he's my go-to person.
Yeah, he's great. He's great.
If
you're listening to this and not following Theo, you should, because he's excellent. He's really like broad thinker. There's some really good people in the neurodiversity space, I think, that I've just, every time I watch the content, I'm like,
well, really exciting thing without going off on a tangent, but I'll just say it briefly. I think we all, I can't say we all, I think a lot of us will either have family members, friends, friends who are parents of children who are neurodiverse. And actually, in recruitment, we have this amazing opportunity to really make a huge difference. So if you're a graduate employer hiring 1,000 people a year and you go that extra mile to make sure that you are bearing that in mind, you could actually make a significant difference, couldn't you?
I mean, over the years, we've been talking about obviously giving a great kind of experience, but probably in the last decade, we're still talking about it, but very little has been done about it. I know it's obviously Meet Engage is meeting that mark. Yeah. What have you seen in the market though that's positive, or so there's going to be changing that? and what can be done to improve
Yeah,
it
I
again?
think you're right. It's something that is a bit of a broken record. It's still not done brilliantly. That said, while you do still occasionally get organisations, say occasionally, I'm going to say you get some organisations who don't respond even when they could just switch an ATS button and it just responds to people to say, I've got your application. It isn't happening. We do then see some really exciting things. I've already mentioned the neurodiversity piece. I love seeing people think differently about giving information in different ways, giving people through automation. I recognise it can't always be possible to just, to do this at volume when you're a lean team. But I love seeing people use our tech, but other methodologies to actually just help candidates make the right choice, enjoy the experience, get something from it. Now, actually, I've just led myself to the point that actually I've seen recently in recent years is we've got one client who uses a particular mantra, which I love, which is whether someone joins us or not, I want them to have got value from this hiring process. So it's a global bank. They're awesome. We love working with them, and they never stop trying to find ways to say, okay, if we get 90,000 people applying for our graduate programs every year, and we hire less than 2% of those people, because ultimately we only need 1,500 maximum, how can we ensure that rubbish at maths, Chris, sorry.
I actually did a bad job before, by the way. Darren got it right. I said 7%.
88,000. Let's make it 88,000. Let's ensure those 88,000 people had the opportunity to get something from it. Was it feedback? Was it, joining a webinar about, financial well-being? Was it all of these things they're constantly thinking about?
Of people that went, you know what a great experience I had with that, regardless. I mean, I don't know if anyone's doing that when they don't get a job, but they're not going to go, oh, that was really sucked for me. You know what I mean? I didn't enjoy it at all. I got challenged. I saw an authentic view of what work life would be like.
But companies like that, well, they acknowledge that there's a lot of time and investment that's done by the candidate, and they need to get from it. I'm applying, I'm doing some research, whether you still get interviews, there's still a lot of time.
Yeah.
And they're aware, that Global Investment Bank are aware that, we can give you information, and we can, and there's courses and so on, that allows you to kind of get, to learn and improve, and also find out a little bit more about us as well along the way.
And they,
I love that.
A really good example of that, is that when you are declined from the process, there are two things. Of course, you can either withdraw from the process, or you can be declined, straight rejected. That journey that I described to you, and I'll be showing you in a bit, that journey where you're serving content to someone to enable them, they do the same when someone is leaving the process. So they will also, this wasn't for you this time round, but actually here's some feedback, but also here's some information that we hope you're going to take some of this personal and professional development away. Here are some extra bits of info, etc., etc. Now, I don't
and don't stop looking at us in the future, right? It's like once you've hit these development points, why the hell not come back and apply, right?
You've got 88,000 people who, for lateral hiring or something similar, they might have applied for early careers, but actually they might be just as appropriate for something else. And there was a stat.
This podcast is not going to go out on the BBC, so I know we haven't named the brand. I'm sure you won't, but that bank, I'm sure, that investment bank without a name, I'm sure, is not struggling to hire recent graduates because of this.
It's very. They're doing a good job, and I love the way that every meeting we go to with them, they keep saying, "But what can we do better next time? What can we be doing better next time?" And I love that conversation.
Amazing.
So yeah.
So aside from Meet and Engage, what other TA tech tools have you seen or are you excited about in this space?
I always find the assessment and selection space really exciting. I think it plateaus occasionally, but then it suddenly just bursts back into life. And I think, obviously the AI question.
I was going to ask, is that come from the fact that ChatGPT is so widely used now in the market by candidates? I'm seeing, and I'm hearing as well, that some of the selection assessment tools, they were going back to what we did about 20 years ago.
Face to face.
We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight on this, I think, for years, aren't we? 'Cause I think that if we're allowed to use it to assess them, why the hell can't they use it to vet and answer questions for us? Right?
I think it's out of the box now, isn't it? You can't put it back in. It's like asking people not to do research using Google. It's just not. You can't. It's. I think we.
I don't know where I'd go if you said that. By the way, to me.
No, I don't. Either. The library. Don't you remember them?
Is there a book about Meet and Engage at the library?
Yes, there should be. It's currently being written. No, I think that the point is, and we have debated this a fair bit with clients. We discuss it a fair bit with clients. So at the end of the day, the research shows, particularly in the early career space, that the vast majority of students will be using it to a degree during the application process. I think you've then got your clients who, as you said, Darren, have said, right, well, that's cheating and it's not allowed, so we're going to make it impossible, etc., etc. I don't think that's sustainable. I think that's a reaction, and I'm not criticising it. I'm just saying.
So we want them to be good at using it, don't we?
I think there's that, right. And then my favourite discussion that I had in recent months was with a client who just said, maybe the answer is levelling it up and giving everyone access to the same, ChatGPT-4, for example, and then actually seeing what they do with the information. So the test is not what you get out.
Now you're stuffed, guys. Now you're stuffed.
Prompt engineering.
It's just I'm with them on that. I don't think you can't put it back in the box because people always, and also, I mean, my son, I mentioned him microwaving his food in his pants. The fact is, he will always try and find the quickest way from A to B. That is his mentality. Is why on earth would I go round the houses?
We're engineered. We're engineered to do this now, right?
Not hack in the
be a master of all things at our fingertips. So how do I get information? And not learn anything.
Right. So why would he go all the way around the houses to get to it when he could just type? And so I think fighting that what is a very clever mentality, which is I'm curious enough to find the quickest way to do this and the smartest way to do it. I don't think I don't see the benefit of removing that.
It's when we decide it's smart that you use the prompt to get to a result quickly. That was accurate enough, and you used your knowledge to understand the response was good. Right?
That's it.
We've all tried using it. We've all tried using it. It's produced utter.
Right, and you can tell. I think the other point that the client actually, a few clients have said, and I completely agree, is it's too early at this moment because most of our clients are just going live now with their first cycle of early careers since ChatGPT. I mean, obviously, it's it's been around for 9 months, whatever. But we're really genuinely only just about to be able to tell.
There is sometimes it's super obvious, of course. Like I've heard horror stories of people using it in interview.
Oh really?
Yeah, and I'm like, the responses it would give for that would be, I don't know how people are doing it. It must be some verbal way of inputting prompts in. But for me, that the responses it gives so far are not good enough. I'd see that straight away. I think that's why the human element of being in hiring is not at threat yet, because I'm able to tell straight away if that answer was the follow-ups and the follow-ups.
Asynchronous interviews, though. Asynchronous interviews, you could argue where you're given 3 or 4 questions and you can prepare. You can do it as a script. That
you can watch it.
Listening to both of you makes me think that when it comes to assessment in the future, is there going to be one assessment based on using ChatGPT or AI tools? So you're allowed to use it, open, and there's another one where you're not, where we're taking it away from you. And this is kind of showing you're on the spot, which is potentially you're out in an office or you're in a meeting and you've got to think on the spot. You haven't got the tools in front of you. Yeah. And there's 2, you're assessed on both sides.
Yeah.
I've seen theories of people allowing it to be used in interview, and then you're on the clock day one once you start, right? Probation is, like we said before, or we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The probation is part of the process of understanding you right here. So if you got in because of AI got you in, you've still got to turn up, and AI isn't going to cover you everywhere. So that is part of on the job. You don't. I mean, it's I think we'll all agree here, right? We shouldn't onboard anybody and then just straight away give them a phone and a black book and told them to get on with it. Like we were all told. That's how it was for me, right? It's like I would never onboard anyone like that these days. And I think it's wrong.
Do you remember onboarding used to be in at the deep end was one of the phrases, wasn't it? Oh, just throw them in at the deep end, and you just think, what were you thinking?
I literally got a black book. I literally got a book of clients, and I was told to call them all with no scripts, nothing. I'm told to get on with it, and I'm sure we've all been through similar versions of that in the past, right? It's like that is not great. That is setting people up for failure. So we're all gonna. I think we're gonna see. Maybe are we about to come into an era where people are gonna not pass probation more because of AI?
What, because they got in using
because
it?
Because they got in, exactly. I prompted my way into that job for 90 grand a year, and now I've got to live up to the 90 grand a year job that I prompted my way into. I've got to go to meetings where I can't be. Hang on, bear with me 1 second. Let me just prompt the next question for the podcast.
Which makes Darren's approach the right one, doesn't it?
Exactly,
that balanced scorecard almost, isn't it? But to answer your question, for me, that's the part of talent of HR tech for me that's really sizzling at the moment. And
Any
I'm
brands?
quite excited.
Any brands there you've seen? Any brands you've seen are really pushing the boundary, and you think I'm going to keep my eye on them? All good if you haven't.
Yes.
And I've seen some smart things. We work closely with Capfinity.
Nice.
I like Capfinity a lot. Their business is just so it's robust. There's not gimmick, is it? But it's just very smart stuff. So we work very closely with them. I recently saw a piece of technology top score, I think it was called, where basically just it was not to do with the AI side of things, although they did have an AI detector in there, Chris. You'll be
I'd be surprised. I'd like to see it. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I'm making a real assumption here, but I've not seen any detection or heard any detection works.
Well, it was the simplicity of how they did it. You basically
change browser.
So the questions were. Say that again, darling.
You can't change browser, right? I've done one where you can't move.
Cut and paste it. Yeah. So you can't cut and paste the content. So it just put a barrier in front. And I was thinking, okay, that is super simple. But anyway, it was more just. It fascinated me that this sort of grenade that's been thrown in is producing these different outcomes. And I did actually think that is so simple, but basically what you've done there is you're serving people questions they can't cut and paste, which kind of puts a barrier in the way of using AI. But
Jeez, that's a good one. That's a good one. I used a piece of tech the other day. It was a exam for something, and you weren't. You know what? I got a call through. I failed it. I got a call through. What was I testing? I can't remember what it was now. It was some exam I was just fiddling. It was a survey, but you had to stay in the environment, and I got a call through from my Google Voice account, so I just turned it off. But that counted me leaving the browser. So to copy that from ChatGPT, if that's what I was doing. You might have just landed on another it's like
solution.
Leaving the browser to go to another browser to copy something over has caused it. I know it doesn't stop people from having two screens and reading and copying over.
There's always going to be an element of it, isn't there? But it's actually blanket minimising it, I think, was what I saw in that top score. So I thought, okay, simple but effective potentially.
I like it. I agree. I think the world we've got to embrace it.
Nicola, for joining us for a great episode of TA Tech Unboxed. For those who are listening on Spotify or your podcast channel, please go over to the YouTube so you can actually watch the demo from Nicola, which was fantastic. And for those of you watching on YouTube as well, who are watching it here now, please leave your comments. We're really super interested in terms of how the demo is working. We've done a number of these. So just wanted to know your feedback on the comments as well. But thank you very much, Nicola, for joining. It's been fabulous to have you here. And I
really enjoyed it.
Fun. Thank you.
Really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Glad we didn't get your son's son in his pants walking from the back of the podcast.
And there was one point we nearly didn't. We might edit it out, but then we've got it also later on as well. So we're gonna have to keep it in.
I'm keeping it in. That's staying in. That's staying in as long as we're allowed to. I'm keeping it fun.
Do what you want, guys. It has been an absolute pleasure, though. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been great having you. Thanks very much for joining us.